Happy January 1st, everybody. I'm excited to be here to talk and discuss and converse with everybody about what they have going on in connection. Pause due to poor connection. Let me see if I can move around, but guys, let me know what's going on with you this year. What are your plans? It's going to be a year of flourishing. This is not going to be like the healing stuff that we've been doing. This was for last year, right? 2020 was a year of clearing. What do we do in 2020? In 2020, we got sent home from our careers. We got to unveil what's going on in the control systems. There was essentially an apocalypse. You guys know what the word apocalypse means? The etymology of apocalypse. The etymology of apocalypse. Anybody out there? Apocalypse means to reveal, to uncover. And so in 2020 there was an apocalypse, happened over the entire world, and we're taught that apocalypse is a bad thing, but it actually means that the systems get revealed. And that's what happened in 2020. We all got sent home. Everybody went on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and then what happened? All of the systems that were getting uncovered, people had to start to monitor them. And that's what happened. Apocalypse, and then the system said, like, no, we can't have people revealing what's going on behind the curtain. So then they introduced monitoring. And that's been happening for the last 4 years. So for the last 4 years, we have been revealing to ourselves what's going on in the reality around us. That was kind of a slap in the face. And then that forced us to realize that we're responsible for how we act, how we be as human beings. Human beings. I'm on property right now, and there's a bunch of farm material around us. If somebody walked in and introduced themselves as a farmer, what would you expect them to be doing? You would be expecting them to be doing on a daily basis, probably farming, right? Farming. What about a plumber? A plumber walks into your house. You're expecting the person that says, hey, I'm the plumber. You're expecting that person to plumb, right? To know how to be a plumber, to actually plumb. We're introducing ourselves as human beings. So what does that mean? What does human being mean? Hue, light, man, mind, manifest. So light creation is another word for human being. Being. It means that we're being light creators. We're being creators of light. That is what a human is. And we have been revealing to ourselves what that has for the last 4 years. Now, actually it's been 5 years, right? 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. 5 years of that. Almost a whole 7-year cycle. So now we're going into 2025. I know you guys all can feel this. I know you guys all can feel that, like, this is the year of action. This is the year of flourishing. This is the year of, okay, my foundation is set. I've revealed the shadows. I've revealed the weak spots in the armor. I've strengthened them. I've mended myself. I now am being fill in the blank. And I just talked to Chris on Astro Mondays on Monday, and he really emphasized that it is especially important over the next few weeks, the next 6 or 7 weeks, that we seal up any of the leaks in our boats, in our sailboats, because the winds are coming and they're coming strong. And these are the winds of ascension. And we're either going to be creating at a tremendous level towards our desires, or we're going to be creating in a tremendous level into a reality filled with those shadows and those leaks. This is unbelievable, spot on, limitless abundance. I feel this. Somebody said I'm still doing some mending over here. It's good. We still have some time. What an amazing time. What wind? So wind would be considered, it's a metaphor that I'm talking about, like the weather. And imagine us as a captain on a boat. And I'm talking about sealing the leaks of the boat because the weather is coming in strong and it's going to push our boat in the direction that we are sailing. And if we're focused on the leaks as opposed to the steering wheel, that wind is going to take us into places where it's filled with more leaks. And so let's get these leaks sealed up. We've had 5 years, guys, as a human society on this earth since this grand apocalypse has happened, since the system has been revealed to the masses. I'm not talking about those of us who could see through the veil decades ago. I'm talking about the masses. The leaks, and if you haven't been sealing your leaks and you're still noticing them and you're still pointing fingers at them and you're still trying to figure out who's responsible for those leaks, get them handled. Get them handled, because especially, guys, when you lose weight, there's memories stored in the fascia of the entire body, even the fat. So whether you lose weight, you get into a new routine, you start doing fascia maneuvers and start opening up your body, what's going to happen is these memories are going to reveal themselves. And if you run the other way, those programs are going to stay within you, and you're going to still be within that program throughout your life, which is going to orient yourself into a reality where it facilitates and feeds those programs. Because all of our realities are feeding the matrices, which is the fascial matrix of the body, the matrix of reality. All of our unconscious, and some of us are even conscious, programs that we're running, we have situated ourselves in a reality that feeds that. So if we're looking around thinking, okay, I'm ready for an upgrade, I'm ready to choose a different reality, and we're still holding on, and we're still got all of these weaved matrices of programs within us that we're refusing to let go of, then we don't have any space for something new. So we're holding on to everything. And then there's this moment where we let go, and in that moment, that opens up space for us to notice and allow the possibility for something else. But as long as we're attached to what we are and were, there's nothing that's going to be allowed into that. And you will sabotage. You will sabotage anything new that comes to you. Because I'm just demonstrating with my hands here, and my feet are rooted into this reality, but it's not our hands that are holding on to it, right? It's our emotions. It's what we're addicted to. It's the coffee that we're drinking 6 times a day. It's us going to a job that we don't really like. It's us putting up with somebody talking to us a certain way. It's us driving in a neighborhood that we have chosen to live in, and as we're looking around it, we're unhappy with what we see every single day. It's little things like that that is just part of reality that we don't assume that we have any control of, yet you are the person that chose to move there, and likely you manifested that because it was the upgrade of you from 10 years ago, and you've forgotten that you've grown 10x in the last 10 years, but the reality that you're sitting in, that you've oriented yourself around, that you've comfortably attached yourself to because it's been good enough, you haven't matched where you know that you can be, which is your greatest expression of self. And so every single day you wake up and you go through the routines, and this is just me speaking generally. It may or may not apply to you. And I'm speaking mostly to the comment of somebody saying they're still mending the sails and somebody asking what leaks and what wind are we talking about. I'm kind of still riffing off of that. But every single day, if we're doing things that are not in alignment with the greatest expression of ourself, then we will continue running the program of something other than the greatest expression of ourself. And this is my invitation to you, all of us out here. We're relying on you to be your greatest expression of self because we're all here creating all of this together. And right now, when we're looking out into reality, I'm seeing things that seem like maybe we can be doing a better job at creating all of this because I can see how it all fits together and how everybody has a right to an agenda. And if somebody chose to be a head of a big giant corporation, they have responsibilities that I am choosing out of. And they have their right to an agenda. And if their agenda crashes into my agenda, then it's okay. I can see all of that, but I also see that we probably can do better. And the world is changing super fast. So that was the groundwork, right? Now is the time to fix the leaks, get your eyes on the steering wheel, pay attention to the sails because the winds are coming in hot and we are going to be riding this wave as opposed to getting crashed into the rocks. And because we're looking at our leaks, we're trying to figure out what's wrong with us. How do I fix ourselves? So be fixed. Be great. The things that you're doing, therapy, fashion maneuvers, exercise, research, all of the things that you're doing to maintain the framework of your boat, that's great. Keep on doing that because you're great. A great captain has a great working ship that he maintains. We're not trying to get to great. We are already there. We're human beings. We're light's creation that is being. We're a creation of light being here. Light, enlightenment. To be light. I spoke about this last week towards the end of this conversation. And I went into the levels of ascension and how we eventually disembody and go back into enlightenment, go back into the light. But even like at our current stage of evolution, at this third density, individual, aware human being that we all identify with, that we have an ego that's attached to this body that's sort of overriding or taking the steering wheel for the most part in our consciousness. How do we get light? How do we get the signal? Well, go outside in the light, right? That's why I was just outside a second ago, but I didn't have reception 20 feet over there. So now I'm in this barn. The light needs a conduit. It needs a conduit to come into us. And one of those nodes or conduits is our sun. Our star is something that facilitates, it translates the light of the universe into this density of reality. And so we have the light of the star is connected to the light of everything else. So if we take a gravitational model of the universe, it's connected to the rest of the galaxy, right? And so our star is our collection node of the information that is living in the light. It's like imagine the galaxy as a conscious entity, and our star is the local, let's call it like neuron or brain cluster of this huge thing, and it is thinking and being, and it's collecting the life force energy from the entire galaxy, and then we're a segment of that, and our star is facilitating and coloring in this reality, which then that light condenses down and slows down into matter. And we are matter, which is slowed down, more densified light. And that's what electricity and a photon are essential. An electron and a photon are essentially the same thing, but an electron has mass, a photon does not have mass. So in this biophotonic electric universe, we are at a density, at a perspective point where we're experiencing matter. There's this energetic, non-material universe or reality that's happening all around us as well, but we're matter experiencing life and the material around us. We are incarnated here. And light is non-matter. It doesn't have a physical existence. So we need something that facilitates the transfer from non-physical to physical. And we get that through practices. We can get that through breath. We can, where we're actually opening up the channels in our body. Most of us get it through food. So food is essentially stored sunlight. There needs to be something that converts that sunlight into matter that we use, matter and energy that we use. And chlorophyll is one of those things. It's the green part. It's what makes a plant green, is what we're taught in school. But why does it make a plant green? Plants are green because trees are really good at absorbing blue and red light, and they're not so good at absorbing the middle part of the spectrum, which is green. And green is what a plant leaf doesn't really absorb. It reflects it back out, which is why we see green. So when we see colors on screens, it's different, okay? But just naturally when we see colors, it's on material surfaces. The color is actually the opposite, or the object is actually the opposite of what the color is. So we're looking out into nature and we see green. All of those trees and plants are not really green. They're a lot of blue light and red light and very little green. And green is reflected out. So where is blue and red light? It's in the sunrise and the sunset. So it's essentially collecting a lot of light from the ends of the days and the ends and beginnings of the days, and it goes into the plant, and then we eat this stored light that's within the plant. It's within the plant leaves, it's within the plant roots, it's within the plant cellulose. Cellulose is made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So is carbohydrate. That's what carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, it makes up cellulose, and it also makes up carbohydrates. And so a plant like a tree is made up of a lot of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. I'm going on a complete tangent right here. The neutrinos and photons can actually be strings that interweave all things. We feel the vibrations of the strings that weave us, and we can also vibrate and vibrate the strings of all things. So I haven't really gotten into string theory that much, but you mentioned neutrinos, which is kind of like what I was saying, that there's neutrinos that are traveling through the universe. They're very, very small, and the arrangement of our star in the, like, what we perceive as the night sky, so like what's behind our star or around our star, and the planets and the orientation of our planet and where it's oriented towards, like with its poles, that all colors in this reality. And we can see cycles of events that happen based on the orientations of this energy that's coming in. And that's why ancient civilizations had a lot of calendars and clocks that tracked the orientation of us within the cosmos. And these clocks and calendars were very long. They were hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years long to go through some of these cycles. And we can see the risings and fallings of civilizations happening within these cyclical dates. And so Chris Witecki talks about it all the time, right? Now is the same astrology as the Civil War, World War II, and so we're seeing these apocalyptic events happening. We're seeing powers that are trying as hard as they can to grasp onto the control they have, and we see the people waking up and saying like, hey, and asking questions. We see individuals rising up. There's a lot of similarities that happen, and you can even go back to Covered, right? And you can see now that the news, the media, the system of control, they're trying to cover up things that are happening currently, okay? Current events. We don't have an answer for that, or it's them happening. Like, they gaslight people. They call them conspiracy theorists. Like, conspiracy theorists, what does that even mean? Like, you don't need a theory to see that people are conspiring, that people are collaborating together. It's not an accurate term to minimize somebody, which is actually what that term was made for. But conspiracy theories, like, their theorists are just people asking questions and saying like, hey, I noticed that it seems like you guys are collaborating together to take advantage of the system that is set up to prevent people from taking advantage of it, which doesn't really align with the heart and soul of why this system exists. And so, do you feel that this is correct? That's all really a conspiracy theorist is doing, is just kind of saying like, hey, I understand that what you're doing may be legal, but is it correct? Is it beautiful? Does it serve the greater good, or are we kind of just finding a back door and extracting as much as we can for ourselves? And do we need to keep on doing that? I know there's a bunch of thoughts that I didn't finish in there. String theory. Guys, if you have questions, leave them in the comment, or there's a little bubble in the bottom portion right there. So back to light, guys. Stored sunlight. It's like a lot of what we're doing is storing sunlight. We're storing it in our bodies. We're extracting it from plants. We're eating the fruit from the plants. A lot of us are eating animals that eat plants. And then we're getting stored sunlight that way. A lot of us are driving in vehicles or traveling in planes and trains that are running off of stored sunlight, whether it's from a mine where they're mining minerals and then extracting the energy from that, or they're mining and extracting the oil out of the earth. And oil is what? What is oil? Oil is fossilized, condensed, organic matter. Mostly the old ancient forests that existed before animals, before fungus. So trees that used to grow super, super tall because there was an abundance of oxygen. These trees figured out, and this is all theory, guys. This is all evolutionary theory based on a gravitational model of the universe, which may or may not be the perspective that you choose. But if you're somebody who only chooses one perspective, you're a little bit blind compared to people that choose multiple perspectives, because there isn't one perspective. So open up, see the earth in many different ways, see reality in many different ways, and see what you can integrate out of it. Because just choosing one dogma as the one and only truth leads you to go through life just trying to defend that dogma. And you're in this state of attack, challenge, and protect of your dogma, and you just have blinders on. And by blinders, I mean refusal to look at any other perspective but your own. And that's, again, a program that we all got taught in school. So it's definitely understandable and forgivable if you have blinders on and you're only able to see from your one perspective, because we got taught A, B, C, D, or E. Which one's the right answer? Because there's only one right answer. We got taught that. And so it's hard for us to imagine that all of this could be more than one thing, because it's not in the program. But once you do some experiments, and you can believe in science and traditional mainstream science, and we're putting satellites around the earth and we're doing all these things based on traditional science, but then also are we able to do other things like manifest out of just intention? Are we able to do that? Can we recognize that our emotional states transform reality around us? Because that doesn't match the other program. And so then we start seeing that there's contradicting truths happening within reality, and we're able to be open to more than one, which is difficult because we all want to know what the one right answer is, because the teacher told us that if we get the right answer, then we're better, we're accepted, we get a better grade, we're going to be worthy of a better career. And there's all these threads that pull back into our childhood when we were taught that. Let's talk reality, says David. Reality, real. So, what do we do? What do we do in 2025, guys? Clarity. Get your eyes off the leaks. Do we have a vision? Do you guys know what's going on? It's here. Like, this is it. It's here. People feel it. There's tons of comments at the beginning of this call. Everyone said they feel it. So where are we going? What are we doing this year? What are we doing today? In a being sense, this is another thing. It's like, how can we do and be at the same time? Well, we're going to be doing that because we're beings. Just like a plumber plumbs. Not because he has to, but that's because it is his nature. An animal is an animal. A horse out there, they're eating the grass, they're neighing, they're doing horse things because they're horses. They're not trying to horse. They are horses. Hi, I have a question. I'm going to go back a little bit. Multiple perspectives are expansive. I hear this. Being open-minded can overwhelm and confuse sensitive, autistic selves. I wonder if you are giving the advice to have multiple perspectives without fear. Sort of. Fear also serves a purpose. Fear is a very dominating emotion in our human experience. And so the goal isn't to ignore it. It's to have a good relationship with our emotional self. And this isn't taught, right? Like, we're taught that the reason why we have fear is because there's something outside of us that's making us afraid. We're taught that the reason why we have anger is because there's something outside of us that is enraging us. We're taught that the reason that we have love is because there's something outside of us that is in harmony with us, that matches our soul's frequency. And even though there is an outside that is relevant in all of those scenarios, it's not outside making inside feel a certain way. It's inside recognizing the outside as one thing. So the thing inside of us that is loving, that is your fullest expression, you're going to match frequency with something else outside of you, but you're going to recognize that as one, and that's going to feel like love to you. Wilhelm Reich, who developed orgone, he discovered orgone in recent times, and he also started the Esalen Institute in Central California. He was like with all the really great thinkers back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, kind of like the hippie revolution, the people that were like starting to become aware of themselves and do like emotional therapy and even like body work with like the body keeps the score type stuff. And he was developing boxes that people could go in that would increase orgone energy. He was also the one that made cloud busters. If you guys have seen those recently on TikTok, where you put copper pipes into basically orgone, or you put them in rivers. You can manipulate the weather. And he proved that the more orgone environment has, the more water there was. And so he could make things grow in an environment before there was even rain, because the water would be condensing, life force energy would be condensing, orgone would be condensing in this area, and you'd actually get sprouts in the ground before rain would even come. And then eventually rain would come, and then everything would start turning green and growing. And orgone comes from the word orgasm, because his theory is this energy that is permeating the universe that he called orgone. He named it after orgasm, because orgasm is that feeling that we get when we're in union with this galactic or universal energy that's powering us all. He eventually got thrown in jail, as they do for people that are discovering things. And they said that like manipulating the weather is illegal, so he got thrown in jail and died of mysterious causes 1 year later. And we now have orgonite as a memory of this man, but he definitely, orgonite is named after orgasm. And so love is a recognition. We associate, love, a lot of us love the people we're having orgasms with, right? It's like the people that we're matched with, where we can feel this universal energy. This is the match in frequency. So things about fear, it's not that we're ignoring fear. Fear is an indicator that there's something there for us to experience inside of us that makes us uneasy. And nowadays, fear can be the best guidance, the best compass for us to go towards it. Fear is where the gold is, right? There's that saying, what you seek is in the cave that you most fear. I completely butchered that saying, but something like that. And there's another one, what you seek is also seeking you. Questions. I have questions. Some are too conscious about still contracting health illness, and some are negligent, still enjoy good health. Do you think it's a role of karma which creates these kinds of things? Is it karma if you are... the way that this question... Does a plumber plumb while eating plums, though? Yes. The way the question is asked, too conscious and still contract health illnesses. Guys, if you're focused on... There's actually a driving test There's a driving test where you're driving and then there's a plate that kicks out your rear wheels. So then you start skidding on a wet surface. I forget what the driving test is called. And then these obstacles pop up. And the only way to get around the obstacles is to steer in the direction that you would like the car to go. And it's very difficult to do. And there's been studies on this of like car accidents, actual accidents on, I'll tell that study and again, I forget the road. But the only way to get around these obstacles is to steer in the direction where you would like to go. However, everybody's looking at these obstacles, these like spike things that come up in the middle, and you end up steering, trying to get around it, but the way that you turn your car while looking at the object makes you slide right into it. And it's the same thing with life, but there's also another road, I forget where it's at, where there's like telephone poles that are every few hundred feet. And it's like an abnormal amount of cars hit the telephone poles. And then when they go ask the cars, like, hey, why did you guys hit those telephone poles? They're like, well, I started skidding off the road and I was looking at the telephone pole to try to not hit it. And that ends up making them hit it. So if you are focused on avoiding something, then guys, remember, we're human beings. We're creations of light. We're light creators. Like, it's the same thing. It's like we are the creator and the experiencer as one. And so if we're focused on not doing a thing, then that thing, or not being a thing, or avoiding a thing, then that thing has to exist. What's it called when you're like a painter? A muse? You know, like if you're an artist and you're constantly like creating around this muse, this, like, let's say it's your lover, and you're like constantly sculpting sculptures of your lover in all these different positions and all these different ways. You create statues of the muse. Well, if your muse is this disease that you're trying to battle, then your structure, like what you're actually manifesting into this physical reality, is this fight, is this struggle. Steer in the direction of your desires and walk confidently in that direction. Keep on asking yourself, does this serve this version of me? We can definitely be here now. When you're here now, you will receive directions. And these directions are not just like easy. They may be simple. They're not easy. They're directions, guys. I know that you get pullings. You get pulled on. You get poked. Reality's pulling you towards something. And then there's all of these obstacles in the way. And it's so easy to just say no to that and continue focusing on our muses, our addictions. Like, no, I can't do that because I still haven't worked on this part of myself, right? So this is you ignoring the push of all of this that's directing you towards this thing that's just a little bit out of your reach because it has to be, because it's not you now. It's the evolution of you. We don't know how to be that yet. And so you're like, no, what's comfortable for me is to work on this part of me that I have got a really good relationship with because I've been pulling this trauma with me my whole entire life. And I think I'm just going to keep on working on that. And so you just keep on working on this broken thing that you just keep on playing with it, when there's this other greater aspect of yourself where that doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And go there. There's like a whole bunch of stuff that you've yet to experience on the way to there. A whole bunch of stuff where, like, 1 hour in this direction, you will learn more about this new direction than you would staying here, playing with your little traumas for the next 10 years because you're comfortable with that. It's like the same thing over and over and over again. Guys, I went to school planning on being a psychiatrist and quickly was like, meh, like, no way. Like, this is just talking to people about their issues every single day. Sit down on my couch. Let's talk. Do you know you have this diagnosis? You were late blooming puberty, which led you to develop this sort of thinking style and this and this and just talking and just bringing it all up and ruminating on it. It doesn't seem to fix anything. It may be helpful, but does it get people to go there? Because that's exponential growth of the human being. And yes, handling trauma is great, but we need to move through it. We need to move through it. Through it. All solutions that are great are going to be simple. They're going to be simple. Move through it, and then you have to actually be responsible and disattached from your created comfort zones and take the leap. And then you get to find out that what you thought was holding you back before was like amateur. That was training wheels. That was training wheels for what's on the other side of letting go. And because you took off the training wheels, you can now go a lot faster. You can now go a lot higher. You can now make tremendously more impact in the world. But if we're still trying to fix the dents and dings on our bike, I'm trying to make a metaphor there, but I can't think fast enough and read comments at the same time. All right. And is that trauma evident of our past life karmas? We can, if you're in your past lives, if you have awareness of them, that's for you. If you are doing what I just said, it's like there's this calling that is tugging on you, and you're like, well, no, I have this thing that's got a hole in my heart, and I'm fixing it now. And then you hear of past life trauma, and you're like, oh my gosh, maybe it's from a past life, and maybe that means that it's not my responsibility. And it's like you just build it up to even more, and then you're like, now I gotta go see a psychic, and now I have to go find some. Like, if you don't actually have recognition of your past life, if you're not like there, you've got very little control of it. And now you're going seeking other people that tell you like, hey, I can get you there. I can get you there so that you can play with your little trauma a little bit more, like in my realm, and pay me $200 an hour to do so. Stop it. Like, where are we here? I know that we're not going there because we're even more afraid of that. We're more afraid of that. The traumas that we're working on is comfortable. If we're in the trauma and we've been there for too long, you guys all know if it's too long. You guys know when it just gets revealed. There's stuff that comes out now, and it's like, this is what I mean. Like, when you're getting pulled or you're getting pushed into trauma right now, and it's like, okay, I'm dealing with this now. And then you deal with it, you deal with it. There's an ending to that. And then there's the next evolution, which may be here or it might be deeper into more trauma. My point isn't to not deal with trauma. My point is to, like, if you have been playing with this thing as a distraction from something else that you're even more afraid of stepping into, this is me pointing that out, which isn't going to be everybody. Some of us are newly become aware of things that they may have forgotten about or they haven't dealt with their entire life. And that's amazing as well, because that is part of this. This is the structure that allows you to go to there. But some of us have built the structure and we just keep on tearing down the structure, and built the structure and we just keep on tearing down because we don't want to build upon the structure. I've been studying social conspiracies as well. Talk therapy without energy healing is just yapping. I'm a therapist. Guys, even literally just going on a walk while doing therapy is tremendously more helpful than just laying down on a couch ruminating, because now you're actually activating your body, and as you're going through these events, your body's involved, and you're allowed to release it a little bit more. We're allowed to release it. And this is all, I just use the word allowed. This is all just, it's a reason to, what's the word I'm looking for? Forget the word I'm looking for. What about fear? Why do they come out of nowhere then? What about fear? Why does who come out of nowhere? Fear? Why does fear come out of nowhere? Here's the thing. If something keeps on coming up, okay, like let's say you had an experience with a stronger man when you were younger, and every time you come across a stronger male figure, you get afraid because there's this other thing that you are traumatized from. The logical part of us is like, well, I'm unable to handle this trauma because this man, when I was 13 years old, did something to me, and I'm unable to go back there. Hey, buddy. I'm unable to go back there and harmonize the situation. And we basically now identify as a broken person, and then we justify why we're afraid of the things that we're afraid of, not realizing that the actual thing, the actual experiences that keep on presenting themselves to us is the key to free us from the trauma of the past. We don't have to go into the past. We can, and I love doing it. I have a whole bunch of exercises that we do that in my programs, but rawverth.com. But it's not necessary, because you will relive those traumas on a day-to-day basis. And instead of doing this and running away from them, this is actually yourself giving yourself a gift for you to release that. You're going to feel it in places of your body. And you're going to ask yourself, does this serve me? Am I ready to release it? Thank you, fear, for protecting me. Thank you, fear, for doing what you needed to do to keep me stable when I was younger and when I needed you the most. And then you can release it and reintroduce yourself gradually or abruptly to the thing that you fear most. And if you don't do that, then you're going to keep on having to relive this. We call this trauma. We're going to have to keep on, but it's really just an experience that you're refusing to step into. It's a lesson that you're refusing to learn. And this is about trauma. This is about everything. If you guys are constantly feeling like you're being taught the same lesson, is because you're flunking the lesson. You're failing. You're running away from. You're putting off. You're distracted while it's happening, and it's just going to keep on happening until the point where it doesn't stick anymore. You then start meeting the people that you used to be afraid of, that brought up this old event, and it does that neurological connection, emotional trigger, however you want to call it, that trauma bond, that is dissolved. You have worked through that, and now you get to reveal to yourself the other things that you weren't even aware of before when you were scared of men that were bigger than you. And I'm not saying that's silly or anything. It's just us choosing to keep on learning the same lesson forever. And then guess what happens, speaking of past lives? What do you think would happen if we go through this entire life and then you get up to wherever you get up to and they're like, so what did you learn this life? And you're like, well, there was this thing that I couldn't really get past. And so that prevented me from ever doing anything. And the person's like, okay. So this it seems like we got to do it all over again, huh? Like, how would you craft your next life so that you face this thing, so that you get through it? And if you ignore it again, what would you make and make certain that you work through it this next life? Like, what would you design? What would you create for yourself? And it's not actually like this. I'm speaking in like human being language. It doesn't actually happen like this. It's not like a person, you're like non-physical human shaped self is talking to like some angel. It's like that's the human made story construct of how this happens. But imagine if you go through this entire life and these lessons are presenting themselves to you and you just are running away from them. Then you get to the time between death and rebirth, right? You graduate from this life and then you're like in the in-between of the lives and you're designing your next life so that you can ascend as a soul, and you're designing the experiences of your next life, and you basically have to get smarter. And you're like, okay, well, I obviously didn't like the grade 1 version of trying to deal with these lessons. I think that I'm going to have to give myself like a 10x experience to make sure that I don't ignore it. And we're doing this to ourselves. We're doing this to ourselves. And guys, we might be experiencing a grade 10 level traumatic event in our life. Great. It's how it is intended. It's for you. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. Always let yourself know that if this wasn't supposed to happen, it wouldn't be happening. And I must be strong enough to deal with this, because I'm the one within this experience. I must have the skill to handle this. The solution must be present. There is a way through this. I'm going through it now. It doesn't feel easy. It might feel impossible. However, every other experience I've ever dealt with in my life, I've gotten through. And so this one must be the exact same way, because many times before I thought this exact same way. I thought that there was no way out of this and that I needed somebody else's help and that I didn't know what was going to happen and I was scared, and I still got through it. And so I'm feeling those same emotions now. And logically we can make sense of situations this way. And then there's the emotional part, which isn't so logical, but then we get to rely on magic. We get to use alchemy, and we can literally just alchemize lead into gold, right? The experience, the lead experience, the heavy, dark experience, and we get to bring it into shining brightness. And that's what we're doing as humans. Dude, you're just playing with your nostrils there. What do you have to say about this? Your hair's white, which means that you're reflecting out all the light. You're reflecting out all the light for the rest of us. Oh, I know. You're getting bothered. All right, it's too much for this guy. He just wanted some alone time. That's why he came away from the other horses. He wants to listen from afar. All right, everybody. So, main point here, main invitation is to the things that have been pulling at your heart, the signals that you have been getting, the signs, within the map of reality that you've been receiving, they are for you. No more ignoring. And let us thrive in 2025. Time to flourish. Bye, everyone. I'm here every Wednesday at noon Pacific time, and I'm over at raw_of_earth, so RA_OF_EARTH. Someone asked, will this be posted? Yeah, I repost them all on this channel as well as my own channel. And bye-bye for now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the comments. Love to all.